The worst has come to pass. The Hiveborn had before it.
Burkan merhaba, iyidir senden. Yeni ligi tanıtacaklar, onu bekliyoruz. 10 dakika kaldı. Nasıl gidiyor? Yeni başladım ben de yayına. Şu Clash Royale oynuyor musun sen de ya? Clash Royale yeni bir şey getirmişler, mod. Allah cezalarını versin. Orada mısın Burkan? Sen oynamadıysan hiç bulaşma. Telefondan falan. Ne o? Bu en iyi mobile oyun olabilir. Dünyada yapılmış. 10 senedir falan var. 10 senedir de fikrim aynı. Tek oynadığım, arada oynuyordum. Arkadaşım dedi bunu ya, bak diye. Bakmaz olaydım. Yeni mod geldi, bir bak dedi. Yoksa bir 5-6 sene önce çok oynadık bunu. Mobile en uygun oyun Burkan. Şey gibi değil yani, böyle desktop oyunu mobile yapılmış gibi değil. Tamamen çok başarılı. Görmen lazım. Hadi be, bir tane daha çakamadı benim eleman. Yayının görüntü nasıl? 2K veriyor değil mi? Bir dakika ya, yeni bir tane şey yapsak mı? Ulan o Mısırlı dedenin gerçeği İzmir'de bizim karşıda oturuyordu. Onun gerçeğini ben gördüm yani. Bizim bir dişçi vardı, kafayı çizmişti artık yaşlılığında. Babası Mısır şeyi yapmış, bayağı bir varlıklı herifti. Yani geyik oradan bile çıkmış olabilir yani. Var ya, ama adam, ben yani benim çocukluğumda adam yaşlıydı, onun da babası düşün artık. Dede ötesi bir şey oluyor. Haydi 5 dakika. Bunlar başka bir şey yayınladı mı acaba şeyde? Valla bilmiyorum, herkesin dedesi o olabilir. Daha değişik bir şeylere yol açabilir Burkan.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. There's a few smaller quality of life changes in 327. Not big enough for their own video, but exciting nonetheless. Let's rapid fire through them. Alteration crafting is now more streamlined. When using Orbs of Alteration, you can now hold Alt, or the gamepad equivalent, to swap to using an Orb of Augmentation if one is available. When opening Blight chests, you will now open all other Blight chests nearby. Rogue's disenchanting services can now be accessed from towns and hideouts. Kerak missions now have a handy icon to show at a glance what kind of mission they are. Vile Orbs can now be used on monsters encased in essences, to the same effect that Remnants of Corruption have. Remnants of Corruption will no longer be obtainable, but any existing ones will still function as before. You'll also no longer need to purchase bestiary orbs, and you can itemize beasts for free from your bestiary. Just control-click on a captured beast to automatically itemize it. Happy hunting! You can now click this button here to level up all gems that are ready to level up in a single click. Keep an eye on the upcoming news leading up to the live stream for Keepers of the Flame for many more quality of life improvements. Then, join us for the live stream.
Hadi live stream artık, yeter. Ver bize coşkuyu. Haydi bakalım. Regen verdi karşıdakine. Şu Clash'e bak, seni acayip eğlendirir ha. Şimdi bir hafta sonra aramızdaki saat farkı inecek. Çıkacak 2'ye. Haydi.
I'm Jonathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games, and welcome to GGG Live. Today we're going to
Hoş
show you an
bulduk
exclusive review
birader.
of Path of Exile, Keepers of the Flame, which is coming out 1 week from now on October the 31st. Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream, so you'll be able to claim your hive-born crawler pet by following the instructions below. Without further ado, let's roll the trailer for Path of Exile, Keepers of the Flame.
We, the keepers of the flame, serve the will of the dreamer. His instructions whispered from beyond the wall of sin. But now, the Hiveborn are here, on Rayclast, and they seek to poison our world. We must close their breaches, destroy their hives, slay their breach lords.
Vay anasını. Breach'e benziyor biraz. Breach Lord dediğine göre
And by his gifts, the dreamer provides.
o hayvan gibi tree geliyor bir de.
They brought this war to our world, but we shall end it, whatever it takes.
Yuh. 3 tane yeni boss geliyor. Trade sistem geliyor. Ulan bunlar gömüyor bütün Diablo'yu sezonlarıyla ya. Öyle böyle değil yani. O kadar büyük iş yapıyorlar ki çok kısa sürede inanılmaz.
As you can see, this expansion is a true sequel to the Breach League, first introduced to the game in 2016. We felt like it was time to progress the story of Breach, bringing with it a slew of new updates to the base game. In today's stream, we'll take you on a deep dive into Path of Exile, Keepers of the Flame, beginning with the League mechanic, covering all the fearsome challenges it presents, and the new twisted ways you'll be able to empower your character. After that, we'll dive into the new ascendancy options possible with Bloodline classes. Then we'll cover the much anticipated and synchronous trade system coming to Path of Exile 1.
Oo, trade buna da geliyor.
Into the new
Müthiş.
pinnacle bosses, how to access them, and some new drops worthy of the added difficulty. Finally, we'll cover some notable quality of life improvements before moving on to our supporter packs and challenge rewards. We'll then have a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask Path of Exile's game directors Mark and myself your questions from Twitch chat. And after the live stream, we'll drop the full patch notes at 11 AM New Zealand time or 3 PM Pacific. So let's get started. I'll hand things over to Mark to introduce the new league.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. Breach is a beloved league that has had an iconic history in PoE. We intend to honour that legacy with our first ever sequel league, Keepers of the Flame. This develops every aspect of Breach, adding new layers to discover, richer lore, scarier bosses, and entirely new mechanics. That said, this is still Breach, so you will still be opening breaches and slaying hordes of otherworldly monsters. The Breach Lords have found the means to stabilize the connection between their realm
Tunağan
and
merhaba.
Rayclast. Now, with their
Breach'i
growth
update etmişler.
we learn
Breach
the
Ligi
true
gelen
lore
ama
of
bir sürü şey geliyor.
the threat they
Trade
pose
de
has now
geliyor
escalated to home soil.
buraya.
On the coast in Act 1,
Ne haber?
you'll encounter Aelith, the founder of the Keepers of the Flame. This is a monastic order sworn to defend Rayclast from the Breach Lords. The exit to the Mudflats has been barricaded by Hiveborn, breach monsters that are working to claim every inch of Rayclast. Aelith can grant you a small spark of the power of the Flame, allowing you to blast away their barricade and move onwards. Once you enter the Mudflats, you'll find it infested with breach monsters. They appear to be constructing a kind of hive, creating strange shapes and structures that absolutely don't belong. Time to purge them with fire. Aelith needs you to protect her as she empowers the flame to do so. Hold off the assault long enough, and she'll be able to demolish the hive with cleansing flame. In other areas, the gap between worlds is strained. Here, you'll find a more familiar encounter with a new twist. A massive breach hand sunders the space between dimensions, and touching it will open an unstable breach, causing monsters to flood in. If you can slaughter them quickly enough, you can stabilize the breach. This brazen action can draw the attention of Vroon, Marshal of Zesht, who will do everything it can to stop you. Defeating this boss will permanently seal the breach, severing another connection between the Breachlord's world and Rayclast. These stabilized breaches are similar to what a breach once was, but with upgraded monsters, a success condition to shoot for, UI tracking to keep the player informed of their progress through the encounter, and satisfying feedback when you do manage to complete the encounter. We've taken all the lessons we've learned since the release of Breach 9 years ago and improved upon it in every way we can. However, much of the joy of Breach came from its simplicity. While we want to modernize the mechanic, we don't want to undermine the core experience. You're still mostly just slaughtering hordes of enemies in a circle. Finally, in endgame areas you might run into breach constructions that have been left unopposed for too long and have grown into their full twisted glory. Breach hives. Towering flesh-crafted cities in the sky. These are the visions of the Breachlords made real in Rayclast, teeming with the breach monsters. You must raid and destroy these cities with the help of Aelith and her flame. In some of these hives, you may even encounter some of the Breachlords themselves, who will not be happy you're intruding on their planned conquest.
2 tane boss.
Now, let's talk loot.
Tunağan geliyor değil mi sesim?
Of course, being an exile is hard work, and you're unlikely to help entirely out of the goodness of your heart. Fortunately, Aelith has power and rewards aplenty, born of the Breach Realm itself, to offer you for your assistance. Help her, and she'll bring you to the Monastery of the Keepers, the hallowed halls of her order. Here, you'll find the Genesis Tree, the growing heart of the Keeper's power. On interacting with it, you'll find that this tree has a tree. That's right. It couldn't be Path of Exile unless the tree also had a tree. More importantly,
İyisin değil mi?
the Genesis Tree is an engine of
Bak
unholy
yeni tree
creation
geliyor
and
mekanikle.
profitable one. As you complete breach encounters and work more with Aelith, you'll be able to grow the Genesis Tree larger and larger, sprouting additional limbs. Each of these limbs, you'll notice, has their own inventories. These can be used for an unusual method of crafting new items. With this system, you'll be able to grow currency, uniques, equipment,
İstediğin şeyi grow ediyorsun ağaçta bu arada seçip.
grafts.
Graft diye bir şey geliyor. Ben sana şey yapayım söyle.
Born of the same flesh and sinew as the invading monsters. These fuse directly to your body in a completely safe process. Don't worry about it. With grafts, you can harness the power of the breach.
Graft vücuduna takıyorsun böyle.
Like this or this,
Ooh.
but they can also grant a wide selection of powerful skills. These graft skills can provide a flexible way to fill gaps in your build, offering everything from damage to potent defensive buffs and crowd control.
Bunlarla bir sürü buff veya işte şey alabiliyorsun.
Call massive arms to erupt from the earth, stunning all those they hit. For some additional pack clearing power, you could consider the Squalling Tool Graft. When commanded, this graft will cast Dance in the White, creating a deadly ice tornado, which aggressively seeks enemies.
Tornado oluşturan skill alabiliyorsun. Vay be.
Critically strike with skills. For some further utility and a useful buff, try out the Storming Ash Graft. This can be commanded to call down a ring of bolts from the sky that will leave behind the new Radiant Ground. Radiant Ground grants a potent damage buff to allies standing within it, and makes their hit damage lucky.
Yeri şey yapıyor. Bu da ayrı skill.
If you're simply after raw damage, look no further than the erupting Zothgraft, which causes massive eruptions of fire where you
O
can.
hayvan gibi fire damage ekliyor. Bu ne ya?
There are a total of 16 different graft types you can grow, each with their own skill.
Bunu ağaçta
You even unlock a
büyütüyorsun.
second graft slot as you
Ağaçta
progress through
seçiyorsun
Rainbow
hangisini
Zone.
büyüyor, onu da
So feel
takıyorsun.
free to mix and match Flesh Zone horrors to your heart's content.
Bak sırtında eller çıktı, görüyor musun?
Grafts aren't just here to make you stronger. They are also your means of feeding the Genesis tree, which needs constant supplies of graft blood to grow anything useful. You can do this by defeating breach monsters, which will leave behind
Şeyleri,
blood
bu
your
eller
graft
monsterları
automatically
kestikçe ağacı büyütecek graft
grows. When
blood'la.
you feed this blood to the tree, your allocated passives will be put to work.
Bak
This section of the Genesis tree can be used to grow new grafts for you, which the Genesis tree will then birth in a gruesome display.
manyak bunlar lan.
Basic passives on the tree might increase item rarity of birthed grafts, or the chance to birth additional grafts. These passives can target specific types of grafts, and this passive causes grafts to be birthed with a random amount of quality. Quality improves the amount of blood that can be stored by your grafts. This section of the
Sınırı
Genesis
varmış.
tree births currency items. Basic passives can result in more or better currency. Allocate this passive to sometimes cause a shower of currency to burst forth from the flesh of the tree. Yeah, it's a bit gross, but working with the organic matter of a bunch of dead otherworldly creatures was never going to be a clean affair.
Fallborn Orb of Augmentation
Grafts
mı?
themselves are born of a different world, so are unmodifiable by most currencies. However, with this passive, the Genesis tree can occasionally grow fleshy mockeries of currency orbs. These function
Bunlarla
like
modifiye de
augmentation
edebiliyoruz
orbs,
bunları.
regal orbs, or exalted orbs, but they work on your grafts.
Şuraya
instead of
taktı,
normal
görüyor
gear.
musun?
Yep, it's graft crafting. Allocating this passive can result in foul-born currencies. This foul-born exalted orb, for instance, behaves as a normal exalted orb, except it guarantees a higher tier modifier. By locking out a large portion of the lower rolls, a normal exalted orb would be able to hit. The
Oo.
largest section of the Genesis tree is used to grow rare equipment items. For these, you have a lot of agency to influence the type and modifiers on your grown item. For example, you can specifically target boots with a dexterity requirement, with an increased chance for speed modifiers, and reduced chance for cold modifiers.
Tamamen oluşturacağı
Maybe you
ekipmanı
prefer to look for a
buradan
two-handed
ayarlıyoruz.
with
Yuh.
increased chance for physical
Manyak
modifiers.
lan bunlar. 4 ayda bu yapılır
This
mı ya?
section of the tree is for growing unique items. Similar to the equipment section, there are passives that let you
Unique
target
item
growing
yapıyorsun
specific
burada
types
da.
of uniques or rarer uniques. The process of growth is not always a perfect one, however, and can result in some defects. This passive can result in birth uniques becoming foul-born, which mutates one of the existing modifiers on the item into a new one, resulting in some interesting new ways to use that unique. For example, this foul-born quill rain no longer has increased projectile speed, but instead has increased area of effect. Another foul-born quill rain could replace the mana gained on hit with the much more powerful modifier where insufficient mana doesn't prevent your bow attacks.
Bow ataklarına devam
Here are
ediyorsun.
some other
Olaya bak.
examples.
Yuh. Çok iyiymiş ya.
This passive even gives a rare chance for foul-born uniques to have multiple different modifiers mutated.
Birden
I'm
fazla
sure
da
you'll come up with some
şey
extremely
yapıyormuş.
powerful uses for these.
Allah
We'll
Allah.
leave it up to you to discover what this mysterious part of the Genesis tree can grow. So,
Çok başarılı.
ultimately, you'll be slaying masses of breach monsters, harvesting blood with the aid of your grafts, feeding that to the Genesis tree, growing some items and better grafts, and back again to the slaughter.
Süper.
As with all our challenge leagues, this league will come with a set of 40 challenges to pursue, and completing them will award you with the Keeper of the Flame armor set, allowing you to
Armor
truly
seti
embrace
veriyormuş
becoming
challenge'ı
one,
bitirirsek bunu.
worshipping the dreamer. Now, graft skills won't be the only new tools to play with.
Aa, yeni
In
skill'ler ve
327,
spor gemler.
we're also
Hadi
adding
bakalım.
a collection of new skill and support gems. Let's go over them now. Kinetic Rain is a new wand attack which covers the ground in unstable
Bu
kinetic
güzelmiş.
energy. These hazards collapse at the slightest touch.
Bizim Rain of
releasing these
Arrows'a
energies
benziyor
into
ama
any unfortunate soul
elektrik.
who happens to be standing on them. With enough projectiles and area of effect, an enterprising exile could carpet the world in dangerous kinetic force.
Çok güzelmiş bu ya.
Wall of Force creates a barrier of kinetic power, causing allied projectiles to ricochet towards targets automatically. Drop one behind a boss and redirect the bolts of your armies. I'm sure you'll find ways to break this one.
Bu şey ya, ne o?
Conflagration is a new bow attack which rains down fiery bolts from above that stick into the ground and pulse as you approach. Once you get close enough, these bolts detonate, causing ravaging ignites.
Çok
These
güzel
bolts
skill bu.
chain react, allowing you to create fields of incendiary destruction. Thunderstorm is a bow attack, which creates a whirling storm of wind and lightning where it lands. While you're within the storm, it will rapidly grow until it becomes violently thunderous with lightning-infused clouds. At this point, leaving the storm
Bu çok
causes
güzel
it to
oynanır
detonate,
bu.
dealing damage to everything within and releasing a flurry of tornadoes in all directions.
Şahane
Attacking with
farm
kinetic fusillade will
bir şey
create
o.
hovering orbs of energy. These linger for a few moments above you before zipping off to nearby targets.
Bu Ember
chaining between them
Fusilade'in
and
aynısı bu.
detonating. Living lightning support will bring to life living sparks of energy, elemental minions that zap through packs of enemies with speed and ease. Use these alongside your
Bu da çok
spellcasting
ilginç.
to augment your pack clearing abilities, or find whatever means possible to cover the world in living sparks of ruin.
Çok güzel bir skill bu da.
Windburst
Allah
support
Allah.
unleashes chaotic tornadoes as you attack, which ricochet around wildly and quickly. These deal moderate damage as they travel, but will explode into a highly damaging burst when they expire. So it's a choice between scaling their duration up to get better coverage, or down to access the burst more quickly. Kinetic instability is a support gem to go along with the new wand attacks. That causes
Manyak lan
enemy
bunlar.
slaying to leave
Ciddi
behind the
manyak
same
bunlar. Bu da süper. Bu
shimmering energy
kinetik şey vardı
kinetic
ya.
rain creates. One might ponder just how many orbs you can create if you were to use both. In 327, exiles will be able to absorb the power of
Oo
some of
yeni
the bosses
class da
they defeat.
geliyor şeyle
These
Bloodline'la.
take the form of new ascendancy class options called bloodlines. Bloodline classes are a new means of character customization in the endgame. They are secondary ascendancy classes that are unlocked by defeating specific endgame bosses. They are allocated with your normal ascendancy points, and you'll have to choose how many of your points go into the original ascendancy and how many into your bloodline class. This means there is a nigh limitless ability to mix and match here, as you could choose to invest just a couple points into your bloodline or max it out, and you could take any bloodline with any base ascendancy class that you see fit. To unlock your
göster.
bloodline, hunt down the endgame boss whose power you desire and defeat them.
Oo.
Have a friend help, and claim the power for your own. There are 10 bloodline classes to discover. Bosses who offer this power are typically associated with past leagues, giving additional reasons to engage with that league content. Let's run over a few examples. The Chaos Bloodline will be offered to you by the Trial Master, if you manage to succeed his final challenge. With his blessing, you can greatly augment your vow skills in different ways. Priest of Yalmak lets you use vow skills much more often, while Priest of Kopek makes it harder to build up vow skills, but makes them far more powerful. Or take Corruption's Embrace, which grants more vow keystone powers the more corrupted items you have equipped. The Ashabi bloodline can be gained by, you guessed it, defeating Ashabi. Her abilities are drawn from the 3 types of life force that manifest within as Marian spirits. The Wild Bear rewards you with adrenaline for generating rage.
Bu şeyler
The
için,
Vivid
melee
Cat
için
gives your
süper
elusive
bu.
buffs a chance to refresh, as well as
Bu
making
bossları
you more
kesince
stealthy
açabiliyorsun bunları. Normal ascendancy
The
pointlerini
Primal
kullanacakmışsın
Bow allows your
Tuna.
unleashed spells to reoccur many additional times, and get stronger for each time they reoccur. The Nameless bloodline comes from the King in the Mists. Be forewarned, his menacing power comes at a great cost. With the Unseen Hand, you can equip a third ring.
Aa, üçüncü
But you
ring
have to
takıyorsun.
decide if that
Manyak
comes at the
bunlar ya.
expense of having
Vallahi
no
hayvan gibi lig yaptılar ha.
no belt, or no flasks. Unlight Silhouette adds a hefty life cost to all your spells, but they deal additional chaos damage based on the amount of life spent. Of course, there is more to come. What powers might you glean from delving deep underneath Rayclass to fight all the Crystal King? What secrets can you learn from Lycia, Herald of the Scourge, waiting at the end of the Forbidden Sanctum?
Bütün mekaniklerin sonundaki bosslar sana bir şey veriyor.
You could be a slayer that embraces corruption and foul power, or perhaps you'll play an occultist that doubles down on their dark power by integrating the nameless bloodline. We are excited to see what crazy and interesting builds players come up with.
Süper ya.
In the most recent Path of Exile 2 expansion, the Third Edict, we introduced a much anticipated feature, fully asynchronous trade.
Trade buraya da geliyor.
It was a fantastic success. So now we're excited to announce that we'll also
Süper.
be adding this feature into Path of Exile 1. When you reach Act 6, you'll be able to find Faustus in Lion Eye's Watch. Previously, he just operated the currency exchange. Now, he will also act as a steward for your merchants tabs. These are where you can place items for sale, for direct and instant purchase by other players even when you're not online. To list an item, simply place it in the tab and select a currency and an amount. Once listed, other players will be able to find the item by searching for it via the trade website or the new in-game market search. To
Süper.
purchase something for yourself, it's as easy as
Search de
hitting this button,
gelmiş.
which will teleport you to the seller's
Süper
page,
ya, bitti.
where you can
Pio'yu
view their
bir
merchant's
yardırır
tabs,
ya bu
buy the
sezon.
item, and also view the rest of their wares in case something else catches your eye. Every purchase costs a small fee of gold, as Faustus takes his cut. To account for this further drain of gold, acquisition and cost balance elsewhere in the game has been adjusted. Anything you've managed to sell successfully will have your profits collected here, in a separate tab to claim at your leisure. To be clear,
Birebir aynı.
previous means of trading, such as via pre-existing premium stash tabs and the website, will still function just as before. Merchants tabs and the asynchronous trading that comes with them are an entirely additive feature on top of the already existing methods to trade. You might find yourself needing the trade system to buy some upgrades, because this update also introduces 3 new Uber Pinnacle boss
Yeni
fights.
Uber bosslar.
These
Tuna bu
encounters
acayip
are
bir şey
manifested
geldi
from
ya.
the memories of Zana, and in her long torment, they have festered into something truly deadly. These fights offer an imposing challenge, alongside powerful rewards. In order to gain access, similar to existing Uber Pinnacle fights, you'll need to discover fragments dropped by Tier 17 map bosses. Each attempt at the new Uber Pinnacle fights will require 5 of these.
Oo.
Let's dig into some of the challenges you'll need to face in these new Uber versions. In the original incarnation of Neglect fight, the statues can be used to block the laser beams to hide behind, giving you an opportunity to avoid being shocked, frozen, or killed. When you run near these statues, they activate and allow you to reposition them. While activated, they will not stop the lasers, meaning you want to position them well, then avoid them.
Çok acayip.
However, in the Uber version of this fight, instead of being a safe haven, the statues will refract the laser beams, causing a ruckus of energy to cover the arena.
Of of, heriflere geldiğinde
So unlike the base fight, where you want to position them well and then avoid them, you'll be wanting to constantly keep these statues active. But then you have to deal with their assault of attacks. While fighting the incarnation of fear, these fiery orbs will slowly clutter up the arena, locking off portions of it until you bait the boss into detonating them himself with his thrown spear.
of of.
When Uberified, these orbs are attached by a flaming leash to the boss, rotating around him constantly. More and more will spawn as the fight goes on, making it even more imperative that you clean them up by cleverly using the boss's abilities against him. Normally in the Incarnation of Dread fight, during the bullet hell phase, you have to acquire a red rose, run it to the boss, then collect a blue rose, doing the same, causing it to get heavy stunned and interrupting its mechanic. In the Uber version, you have to do the same, but in order to get the blue rose, you have to defeat the Incarnation of Neglect, and to get the red rose, you have to defeat the Incarnation of Fear. Good luck.
Çok
Given the
acayip.
difficulty of these bosses, their reward should
Evet
be
ya,
worth your
bu
while.
acayip
Let's take
yani.
a look at some.
O kadar fazla şey getirdiler ki, yapacak o kadar çok şey var ki. Bu neymiş?
Bitter Instinct. A spiky shield that turns retaliatory strikes into preemptive ones, making it just a matter of time before the long arm of justice crushes your foes.
Olaya bak, shield'a bak.
Alternatively, you might find Festering Resentment, a poisoned blade with an unending supply of toxins built into the hilt. These toxins are put to good use, causing every spell you trigger to be capable of poisoning with all damage it deals, enabling a truly crazy trigger-centric poison ruckus.
Çok
And from
iyiymiş.
the Uber Incarnation of Dread, the Hallowed Monarch, a counterpart to the Dark Monarch, which focuses more heavily on investing into
Bu
buff
resmen
or
şey ya,
minions, rather than
Headhunter'ın
growing your builds to
helmet
massive proportions.
versiyonu.
Stormbreak gloves,
Senin
your chosen
minyonların
few
oluyor ama
stealing
modifier'ları.
power from your enemies as you go.
Bu resmen minion build'lar için şey ya.
We've got a number of quality of life changes to bring to
Headhunter.
327 as well. Many of which you may have seen already in some of our pre-livestream teasers, but for those who haven't, Heist is a mechanic which has long frustrated some players who may otherwise have been interested in the rewards it has to offer, but have no desire to grind through the early progress of finding and running low-level contracts to get all of the rogues to their maximum level. Well, starting in 327, Heist rogues will automatically begin at maximum level, so you can start your dubious criminal career without
Süper.
all the busy work.
Heist yapılabilir artık.
Points invested into your Atlas passive tree will now be refundable with gold. Just speak to Karen
Bunu
to do so.
biliyoruz. Gold'la Atlas'ı
Players who love jumping between
değiştirebileceğiz.
strategies, there's also an option to instantly refund your entire tree.
Refund all
Which of
geldi ya.
course can now also be done with your regular passive tree as well. Now you can
Hepsini
make all your
kaldırabileceğim
decisions
bir
with no
kere.
regrets. Well, maybe some regrets.
Şahane.
You no longer need to purchase bestiary orbs. You can now itemize beasts for free directly from your bestiary. From late Act 1, you can now mass identify your items at an NPC in every town. And from
Bu
Helena and
müthiş. Bu
Hokkaido,
identify işi
this does
şahane.
not require scrolls of
İkiden
wisdom
burada
and
daha önemli bir de. Bir de çok daha fazla
while using
item
an
düşüyor
alteration
çünkü.
orb, you can now hold Alt to swap to using an augmentation orb. If one is available, opening a blight chest will now open all other blight chests near it.
O gruptaki hepsini açacak artık Tuna.
Rogue's disenchanting services can now be accessed from towns and hideouts. Kerak missions now have a handy icon to show at a glance what kind of mission they are. Holding down Control and right-clicking on stacked decks will now continuously open them to your inventory, notifying you in chat what the outcome is. If you still want to open them direct to the ground, to let your loot filter provide a dose of dopamine, you can still do that too by also holding Shift. Val orbs can be used on monsters encased in essences, to the same effect that Remnants of Corruption have.
Remnants of Corruption'ı kaldırmışlar. Onun yerine Vaal Orb kullanacağım.
When multiple skill gems are ready to level at the same time, you'll now be able
Oo,
to click this
hepsini
button to
level
them all up
süper.
at once.
Şahane.
Next
Teker
up,
teker
we're gonna be
basıyorduk ya.
talking about our new League supporter packs. Today, we're launching two new series of supporter packs, the Champion of Theopolis and the Verdant Magus packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs
Çok
are
komikmiş
purely
bu.
cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. The Champion of Theopolis series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Manifest a champion's ferocity, as the Lion's Might unique finisher effect rips your enemies to shreds. Open the Champion of Theopolis portal to end your crusade through maps in the style expected of a true victor of the arena. Defeat your enemies like a true gladiator, wearing the Grand Champion of Theopolis armor set. The armor awarded only to the most elite warriors of the Grand Arena. Take charge of the situation and storm into combat with the Flaming Minotaur's Quicksilver Flask effect. The Champion's podium map device rises up to
Quicksilver efekti iyiymiş. O hızlı koşturuyor ya zaten.
And stand atop the platform as you enter your maps. Each flame surrounding the platform represents a remaining use on your portal. The burden-back belly goat carries all the supplies necessary for a campsite as he travels behind you in battle. When placed in a hideout, instead of roaming around like your other pets, their supplies are deployed, creating a small camp where you can access your stash and providing a place to take a load off while you rest next to the campfire. The Verdant Magus series contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
Çok iyi ya. Tunağan öyle böyle değil yani.
But sometimes you just want to feel a little bit more shady about your dealings. The back alley trader hideout decoration is more secretive with your trades, creating distance between you and your customers. Note that until 327 is released, this back alley trader will only serve as your currency exchange. Once it's out, it will be updated to have the new managed shop option to also facilitate your trades. The Verdant Wayfinder pet is a loyal companion to any Master Magus. As you approach waypoints, it envelops them with its vines, guiding you throughout Rayclast. Control Earth and nature itself as the Great Verdant Magus armor set envelops you in the ancient power now lost to time. There's also a matching back attachment included. Remnants of the forest ripple out from within you with the Verdant Magus level up effect equipped, restoring life to the corrupted land. Call on an ancient golem to use their power to create a safe passage for you to retreat through with the arcane golem.
Hepsi de iyi. Supporter pack'ler de
As a
çok iyi.
supreme Verdant Magus, you can travel to your arcane isle hideout. A
Şimdi
cluster of islands
convert
held together by
ettiklerimiz
ancient
burada
magic
kullanılacak mı
passed
acaba
down between
PoE 2'de?
link mages. Stand atop your tower and relish the great heights you've reached above those who have not harnessed the arcane. These packs are now available for purchase on both PC and console and will remain so during Path of Exile, Keepers of the Flame. Additionally, any microtransactions from these supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 2. Meanwhile, the Crypt Keeper and Frisian Magistrate packs leave the store forever at the launch of the Keepers of the Flame League, so now's your last chance to purchase them. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D.
İzleyelim. Bir şey veriyor ya.
For Path of Exile, Keepers of the Flame.
Şu anda bakayım neydi? Drop da var.
With release at the end of next
Şeyde
week,
yazıyordu
our community
sitede.
team will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to holding
Highborn Crawler Pet.
crafting gruesome grafts, planning dozens of bloodline-empowered builds, and filling out our tree's tree.
Evet
Hope
evet.
you all join us.
Gelir birazdan. Kısa sürdü çünkü. Şu Q&A'yı izleyelim yalnız. Ne oluyor ne bitiyor. Çünkü şeyi merak ettim. Premium tabları convert ettik ya şeyde. PoE 2'de. Bir de herhalde kullanılacak bunda direkt.
G'day Exiles and welcome to the post-reveal discussion and Q&A with Jonathan and Mark, lead guys who make games, I believe is what we've discussed as the titles.
Yeah,
That's the
official title. Yeah.
Excellent. I like it, it's good. We're talking about how to inflate their titles, so we'll lead up to this. 327 Keepers of the Flame, the reveal we just had there was, I think, quite a banger, but I've been even more impressed with what I've been playing here in the office with some of that, so we'll get into that in a moment. But I'm curious, this is kind of like a special kind of reveal day for PoE 1 fans, as I think it marks a return to schedule for us. You announced this plan to do the 4-month cycle for the games, two twos, and seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly hard. I'll tell you that, right? Like it can be pretty brutal on some of the stuff when it's like every 2 months you got a deadline. But yeah, I mean look, we have to do it, right? Like I mean that was always the intention to get the regular schedule. It's super important, so we have to make it happen. We have to make sure that that's something that we can do going forward. But yeah, I would like I'm honestly I'm so happy that we managed to to get everything back, and I think that's it's
Bir sürü şey yaptı herif. İnanılmaz.
Feel a lot less like crazy here this visit for me, like, and things seem to be more of a finished state as well from what I've been looking at. So
well, we're putting a lot more effort into sort of getting that production process down, making sure that everything's going well. Like we're hiring producers at the moment, just by the way, in case anyone's out there just like looking for as a production job. But it's something that we're really concentrating on, making sure that because when you've got a schedule like this, when it's this tight, you have to be really really careful because like I would say one of the hardest things that we did.
Dedi ki 2 aya şey yaptınız dedi. Artık 2 ayda çıkarabiliyor musunuz? Evet dedi. Bayağı zor oluyor. Çok bazı kişilerde çok yük oluyor ama dedi. Yapmak zorundayız dedi yani.
That's been real hard to adapt to, but yeah, I mean honestly we have to.
Yeah, because PoE2's 030 kind of we missed it by a week or two as well. Yeah. Normally that's okay. Yeah. You slip a week or two, but now all of a sudden now you got a bit 2 week more overlap with 327, and it certainly has less room for error. But again, that's why more production staff should help, and we are just going to get better at it. But yes, we made it to 326 and now 327, mostly on schedule, give or take. But one was you could argue one's an anomaly, 2 is a pattern. So hopefully it should continue as normal. But yeah, we'll get better at 100%. So we'll work out the case.
Daha da iyi yapacağız diyor. Lan hayvan gibi yaptınız zaten.
6 releases a year for across both Path of Exile. So.
Yeah, I remember thinking when you guys were doing 4 releases a year that was crazy. So 6 is pretty wild, but it seems to be happening. So fingers crossed it keeps happening. Is the contingency just that like occasionally you just might delay by a few weeks?
I don't want to. I really want to be real strict about it. Like
we said we'd stick to the time and adapt the content around the time. Like consistency is key. So hopefully we can keep doing that.
Vallahi bayağı iyi şey soktular 2 aya yani.
I think you were telling me once before, Jonathan, that when you have that for a while, it kind of helps everyone get an idea of like scoping a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it helps with everything, right? It helps with the players just feeling the consistency. It helps with like developers. Like it's just overall like a way better state to be in.
So, Breach 2, aka Keepers of the Flame. It's the first real direct sequel league in PoE. Now I know we're kind of
İlk defa sequel yapıyorlar bu arada. Daha önceki mekaniği böyle upgrade edip getirmediler.
Sequel league, and it seems like people are pretty keen on the idea. I think the reception's been pretty good so far. First impressions. What are your guys' thoughts on doing a sequel? Were you like anti-sequel, pro-sequel? Because I know people kind of.
I would say personally that so whenever you do a sequel, you're entering a dangerous territory because people who didn't like the original.
PoE 1'den de kazanıyorlardı. Sadece ekibi büyütüp ondan rahat yaparlar Tunağan. 2 tarafa da adam alınca bu kadar daha rahat gider. 1'den kazanıyorlardı ki 2'yi yapabildiler, deliver ettiler. Ya PoE 1 zaten kazandırıyordu bir şekilde, döndürüyordu şirketi yani. PoE 2 çok daha iyi yere çıkardı.
I mean, as Jonathan said, yes, like some leagues are more divisive than others. Some have more kind of X factor out there gameplay, with the whole Blight Tower defense, and some of them are more maps and a bit more crazy. And immediately you do turn off some people, and we know that going in. When we make these, we try and make it, something good for everyone. But Breach had that just like you're just slaying hordes of monsters. You're just killing. It's the classic. We talk about reinventing the wheel. Here we talk about not reinventing the killing monsters in circles. And it has that. And by the way, that is a massive thing when doing the sequel is we're like, we must keep the killing monsters in circle. Because the last thing I want to do is, and this is another risk of a sequel, is take something that people love and then just ruin it. So we really focused on the weaknesses of what Breach had, because it was 9 years ago, almost to date, I think it was. I think it was December.
9 sene olmuş ilk Breach çıkalı. Yuh.
Just if you want to feel a bit old for a moment there.
My back, ow.
know, and I actually still remember working on it. It does not feel like it was that long ago. I made those 5, the 5 breach lords back when, and put together all the monsters and all that interesting stuff back then. And I was like, what was I doing? Like we took the player characters, put some micros on them, and dunked them in red paint.
That was the style at the time.
You know, it was like, so it's not only been fun to come back into a sequel. Which, by the way, we've codenamed Breakable, just to, which is obviously a given. But,
Important.
Bayağı geyik yapıyorlar ismiyle ilgili development sırasındaki.
Including, with all the lessons learned for PoE2 as well, and then coming back and being like, what do we know now that we didn't know back then? And it's like, okay, let's not sabotage the gameplay, the killing of monsters, the killing monsters in a circle, and let's focus on the weaknesses. And so then we looked at, okay, well, nowadays, if we were to do a league, it generally comes with, some character power arc. You've got some crafting system. There's generally a meta system, and then that's where you get like the grafts, the Genesis tree, and all that stuff come in. And again, focusing
Ya Genesis
on that
tree
instead of,
acayip
like,
ya.
Focusing on the combat mechanic this time around, because we kind of knew that was a success. You'll find that might be less trivial with some of the other contents that's a little bit more like crazy with respect to combat. We'll see.
Definitely eager to dive into like basically all of the things you mentioned there. But out of interest, what's like a league mechanic or an expansion that you either would or wouldn't want to sequel at some point? Like, what would be a bad example? Is maybe interesting.
Well, I think the one that you said there with the tower defense stuff, it's just like, that would be very divisive, right? Immediately, if we said doing a sequel and people watch that, there'd be immediately
Right.
a bunch of people would be like, yeah, I know.
I think you get both ends of this. I think you get the most passionate people
Exactly,
wanting it,
right?
and then you get the most people that hate it on the other side.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
That being said, like, it isn't like, oh no, that means Blight's never getting improved.
Right.
There's differences between overhauling and improving a league, and obviously doing a narrative sequel where you kind of step away from some of it, and, so really here it's like, yes, Blight, there's so many leagues, right? Insert all of them will get attention. Sometimes it'll just be quality of life, similar to what we've done with Heist this time round, because honestly that might probably deserves more. And then other times it'll just be an upgrade.
I certainly wouldn't want people to say, oh yeah, we're just going to do sequels from now on. Though we're definitely not. Like, I don't think it's going to be the most common thing. I think it's just a thing we decided to do here, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. But most of the time, I think people want new stuff and different new things.
I like the revisit. So I wonder. There's definitely some lore and stuff I'd like to see expanded. Like, I feel like Harbinger, for example, touched on some stuff that was maybe only scratching the surface.
Part of what allows us to do the sequel here, by the way, and from a more production point of view, is that because we did the Twisted Domain and the new Breach monsters in PoE2, we got to utilize the monsters. So we didn't take the bosses from PoE2. We made full from scratch boss fights for Keepers of the Flame. But for the monsters, a lot of it's reusing the models, the animations, the rigging, a lot of the art side of it. And because we get to do that, we get to then focus our attention on all those other things that we would otherwise have to have a bunch of resources dedicated to. So like, there's a kind of like 2 birds, 1 stone going on there, where we not only got to do it, we got to do it in a more cost-effective way that allowed us to focus on other features that are going in the expansion. So, win-win for players and for us in that regard. But it would be less trivial with other sequels or to other leagues where we don't necessarily have all the monsters and everything made like that. So, not to say it's impossible.
Ama oynanır, çok güzel lig yani, inanılmaz güzel oldu.
To do more here than we might, if we don't forward think enough